I think that I've now, at 63 years old, suddenly owned that it's not a bad thing to speak your voice.
There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like...
Oh, the marble halls of Valencia estate are shaking again, and not because of another streaming crew or a PR disaster ready to explode. This time, it's something far darker. Liana Marlowe is said to be in full-blown panic after Duchess Celine Ravencourt, yes, that's Celine, resurfaced with a few secrets she apparently buried decades ago. And what she just unleashed has thrown royal strategists and Solara's elite into absolute chaos. Celine's remarks dragged up Liana's rumored Ocean Club years and even hinted at a mysterious connection to a certain Marquis long before her whirlwind romance with Prince Adrian ever existed. The fallout? A scandal so unhinged that the High Court of Valencia reportedly had to issue private statements in a locked-door meeting. Grab your tea, because this isn't some petty rumor. This is the kind of detonator that rattles crowns and detonates every gossip feed in Solara. And what's wild? It all started quietly. Too quietly. Celine was doing a gentle little promo for her new memoir, Still Waters, Deep Flames, and Forgiveness. The tone was warm, nostalgic, harmless, until someone casually asked about Liana Marlowe's modern influence on the royal image. That's when everything shifted. Witnesses say Celine's expression darkened, her smile stalled midair, and she simply murmured, "Ah, Liana." Then, with a slow, knowing curve of her lips, she added, "She's hardly the first young woman enchanted by palace life, or by the privileges tied to it." The interviewer let out an awkward, nervous laugh, but Celine didn't. She stayed perfectly still, wearing that sly, where attention is currency, and every smile is a silent prayer that someone powerful is watching. And then she dropped the line, the one that blew up every feed, every gossip circuit, every royal forum within minutes. Some of those faces ended up in places no one ever expected, including the royal palace of Valencia itself. That was it. A single sentence, and the entire world gasped. Royal analysts froze mid-comment. Court insiders went silent. It felt like someone had lit a fuse under the throne, and the explosion was only just
King
beginning.
Charles has very much been dragged into this. The king has been heckled during the...
Instantly, all eyes shifted toward Prince Adrian and Liana Marlowe's former home, Briarwood Cottage, as internet detectives began connecting dots. Sharp-eyed fans remembered one notorious yacht trip from the early 2000s that had haunted Liana's online history for years. Those glittering summer parties drifting off the coasts of Athenora and Monaco Bay, where models, desperate starlets, and the ultra-rich mixed under neon lights. And guess who was reportedly among those circles? A young, ambitious actress and one royal guest, Marquis Cashin Ravencourt. No one claimed Liana had any romantic link to Cashin, but the implication alone was explosive. Celine's remark, whether intentional or not, reopened one of the most controversial chapters of Liana's pre-royal life, the infamous yacht girl whispers, and within hours, Twitter and TikTok went wild. The hashtag Celine said it erupted as old photos, gossip archives, and long-buried threads resurfaced, with people insisting Celine had just inside Montessori estate. Liana was reportedly furious. Friends told the Meridian that she called Celine jealous, accused her of betrayal, and insisted she had never met Cashin socially, calling the yacht rumors misogynistic lies meant to destroy her. But here's the twist: Celine didn't back down. When paparazzi spotted her outside Crescent Hall Hotel the next day, and someone shouted, "Celine, what did you mean about Liana and the yacht summer?" she simply smirked and said, "Oh darling, I don't tell tales. I just remind people that every fairy tale starts somewhere." That single line sent shockwaves across the kingdom, because if anyone knows how to drop a scandal with a smile, it's Celine Ravencourt. Behind palace doors, officials were reportedly fuming. Celine may live on the royal fringe, but her words still carry weight, especially when aimed at a duchess already on shaky ground. One royal aide told the Solaris Times, "The court has no interest in rehashing Liana's past, but Celine's remarks couldn't have come at a worse time. The king wants unity, and this reopened wounds that had barely begun to heal." In simple terms, Celine had just poured gasoline on a fire the crown was desperate to put out. But why now? Why would Celine Ravencourt, who knows better than anyone what public humiliation feels like, risk taking a direct shot at Liana Marlowe, According to court insiders, it all comes down to one thing: respect or the lack of it. Apparently, Celine felt deeply snubbed by Liana during her early days in the royal spotlight. Remember Lady Evelyn's grand wedding? That unforgettable moment when Liana chose to reveal her secret announcement, stealing every ounce of attention from the bride? Well, Celine never let that go. One insider claimed Celine always believed classic Liana, turning someone else's celebration into her own headline. So when the opportunity arose years later to remind the world that Liana wasn't always the polished duchess she pretends to be, Celine simply couldn't resist. And honestly, when it comes to royal vengeance, no one plays the long game quite like the House of Valencia. Meanwhile, Liana Marlowe's PR team reportedly began scrubbing certain search results, contacting media outlets, practically begging them not to revive those old yacht whispers. But as everyone knows, the internet never forgets. Archived gossip sites resurfaced. Long-buried photos reappeared. Former industry acquaintances began murmuring about who Liana once mingled with, how she climbed her way up, and which exclusive rooms she used to slip into. And then came the worst part, Marquis Cashin Ravencourt's name being even remotely linked to hers. In PR terms, that's the ultimate code red. One Solara insider put it bluntly: if Celine is even hinting Liana floated in that circle, even socially, it's a catastrophic PR nightmare. You can't shove that genie back into the bottle. Within 48 hours, global headlines erupted. Celine's yacht remark sparks royal frenzy, Montessora meltdown, Liana furious over Duchess Celine's shocking comments. Was Liana's past closer to the crown than anyone realized? It was as if Liana's old Solara life had crawled back out of the shadows, and this time,
apologized for taking abusers' cash and vowed
no control over the narrative. Fans began noticing something odd. Liana Marlowe's official website and social accounts went completely silent. No posts, no statements, no glossy lifestyle updates. Sources close to her claimed she'd locked herself in back-to-back crisis meetings, calling her team old industry allies, even Lady Evelyn herself, who was now awkwardly wedged between her mother and her former closest friend. But Celine Ravencourt's camp wasn't backing down either. Rumor had it she held even more stories, ones that could cast entirely new light on Liana's pre-Adrian years. And if that was true, then buckle up, because this storm was only beginning. For years, Liana's team had worked tirelessly to bury that chapter, the yacht summers, the Solara hustling, the risky circles she once drifted through. But Celine had just shattered the one unspoken rule of the royal house: never resurrect the past. Now Liana's worst fear had materialized, her old world crashing into her royal persona, with the internet refusing to let any of it fade. She was cornered by Celine's sharp tongue, by resurfaced evidence, and by her own unresolved history. The real question now was simple: what would Liana do next? Because if there's one thing Liana Marlowe understands better than most, it's how to fight back. The moment the story hit the airwaves, it was like striking a match in a room filled with gasoline fumes. Liana wasn't just upset, she was raging. Insiders claimed she stormed through her Montessora mansion, phone in hand. When someone tries to rewrite your story, you snatch the pen back. And that's exactly what Liana Marlowe intended to do. Within hours, her PR machine roared to life. Crisis calls, midnight strategy emails, carefully phrased no comments, every signal pointing to a massive countermove forming behind the scenes. According to insiders, Liana began constructing her own counter-narrative, not just a defense, but a reclamation. She reportedly reached out to a top streaming executive about a new documentary, a Reclaiming Truth project, a modern duchess standing tall against whispers and shadows. Except Celine. Meanwhile, Celine continued her charm offensive talk shows, witty anecdotes, slyly delivered jabs that needed no names. Audiences roared, clips went viral. Team Celine began trending. Suddenly, Liana wasn't being cast as the victim anymore. The narrative shifted. She was being reframed as the aggressor. So she made her next move a bold one. She'd speak on camera, not a podcast, not a scripted series. A raw, unfiltered interview. Her story, her truth, her voice. But in royal circles, speaking out is more dangerous than silence. And as she prepared for her televised reckoning, the whispers intensified. Celine's old allies began chiming in: former attendants, past confidants, long-retired court friends. What started as one sly remark had now escalated into a full-blown Duchess war. And as one palace aide put it, Celine has survived storms that would break most people. Liana is only now discovering that when you challenge the crown strikes back twice as hard. hard. Fans noticed something strange when the glamorous Duchess's online presence suddenly went silent. No posts, no updates, nothing. Rumors swirled that she'd locked herself in crisis meetings, calling her team old contacts. Even a royal friend caught awkwardly between loyalties, while the Countess who had sparked the chaos refused to back down. Whispers spread that she held more stories from the Duchess's past, tales that could expose an era the Duchess's team had worked hard to bury. As the internet erupted, her reputation seemed to collide with her carefully crafted royal image. Furious, she stormed through her mansion, phone in hand, determined to take control of the narrative. Instantly, crisis calls, late-night emails, and strategic statements signaling something big was coming. She began building a counter-narrative, even discussing a new documentary to reclaim her truth. But the Countess simply smiled in interviews, saying no one should fear the truth, a line that went viral. Old photos leaked, out of context yet explosive online, and tension escalated as her partner grew furious at the media and the palace. Refusing to fold, she reappeared at public events, radiant, calm, but unmistakably ready for battle, though the cracks showed. Meanwhile, the Countess charmed audiences with clever anecdotes that needed no names. Suddenly, the Duchess was being painted as the aggressor, prompting her boldest move yet, a raw, personal televised interview. As she prepared to speak, whispers grew. Old allies of the Countess surfaced with more hints and memories, transforming a single sly comment into a full-scale feud. Palace insiders claim the Duchess was still learning that when you fight an institution, it fights harder. And as her Truth Project neared release, the question shifted from who was right to who would survive the fallout. Even as senior royal figures tried to calm the storm, it was too late. The headlines had taken on lives of their own. In her quiet mansion, the Duchess faced daily briefings on every hashtag and every new twist, knowing that this time it wasn't just gossip on the line, it was her legacy and everything she had built.